Hi everyone, and welcome to Luxury Insider for Yachting International Radio. I'm your host, Sarah Colbon, and today I'm joined by the wonderful Richard Crawford, the presenter and creator of the new Amazon Prime luxury eco travel show, Leave No Trace. Welcome, Richard.
Thank you, Sarah. It's a pleasure to be here.
Richard, how is everything going? I know it's such an unpredictable time for everyone. How have you been?
Well, fortunately, I've stayed safe and I've stayed healthy, and even more importantly, my family and my friends are all safe and healthy. But it has taken a little bit of getting used to for somebody who has traveled extensively for the last 25 years or so. Being grounded and staying at home has taken a little bit of an adjustment, I have to be honest.
Absolutely. Well, I know we're just getting to see the light at the end of the tunnel a little bit over here in the UK, but you're in New York, right, at the moment?
I am, yes, I am. And the goalposts keep kind of moving for us, which I honestly think is a good thing. As you know, as the science comes out, they decide that the date they had set maybe we're not ready yet, and it varies state to state. But up here in New York, it's kind of moving the goalposts. We get a little closer, and then they say, well, let's wait a little longer, which I'm happy to do, as long as it's all good gone by the time we get it back out.
Yes, absolutely. I know we're starting to at the moment, and like I was saying before, the weather at the moment over here is really great, so we've been lucky in that sense. So Richard, could you tell all our viewers, when did your passion for travel begin, and how did the journey start creating Leave No Trace?
So my passion for travel actually started at a really, really young age. I grew up in a small town called Paisley, right outside of Glasgow, which is actually where Glasgow International Airport is. And I literally grew up across the motorway from the airport. So as an 7, 8, 9-year-old, every weekend or every Sunday or so, me and all my little friends, it was kind of an adventure to, first of all, run across that motorway, which looking back on it today, it was not the smartest thing to do. Definitely not something you'd get away with today. But it was such a playground for us to go over to a big building like an airport. You know, it was like, again, it was like this big adventure. And in the building, I mean, something as simple as the escalators, we'd run down the up escalators and up the down escalators. We get chased out of the building and run back in again by security and blah blah blah. So it was a fun place to be. But I remember the day vividly, stopping in my tracks and just looking at people. Looked different. They sounded different. They wore different clothes. So I was seeing all these ethnicities. I was hearing all these languages. I was seeing all these customs all coming and going out of the airport. And it just absolutely fascinated me. And I would watch those planes take off. And I said to myself, one day I am going to be on one of those airplanes and I'm going to go somewhere. And really, since that very, very early age, I've had that passion to travel.
And so when combining that with I suppose creating Leave No Trace, how did that journey begin for you?
So Leave No Trace is a little bit of a longer story, if you don't mind me indulging a little bit. I'll try to condense it as much as possible. but there is a route to where I am today. So actually, in a very early part of my career, I was a spokesperson for one of the largest single malt Scotch whiskies in the world, the Glenlivet. And here in the United States, it was literally my job to run around the country and tell the story of the Scotch whiskey to mostly consumers, mostly people who are buying. I did a little bit of trade education and stuff like that, but it was mostly consumers. What I started to find at the end of my presentations, there was always a Q&A session. And what I started to find was people would ask me, yes, about the whiskey we just talked about, but then they would ask me, hey, where did you get your watch? Or, I love that vest you're wearing with the suit. Where's that from? Or your shoes or blah, blah, blah. Oh, and where are you going next? Like what's next on the agenda for you? And I realized the whole Scotch whiskey thing was actually something part of a bigger lifestyle. So what I actually did was I took the initiative and I handed in my notice at Glenlivet, and I started my own company as a luxury brand ambassador for a lifestyle. And I was I continued to do this for several years. So I was representing several brands, getting
Mm-hmm.
up, telling the brand story, telling the heritage, basically just being a storyteller. I was at a show in Dubai several years ago, and it was called Big Boys Toys, and it was basically this big luxury show with all these big luxury boys' toys.
Oh,
So to
yeah,
speak.
yeah, yeah.
And we were staying at the hotel there, and the hotel manager asked me, "Hey, would I mind doing a little piece to camera about the hotel I was staying in?" Because he could see that I could, tell a story.
Sure.
um, and I did, and really liked it. And they actually asked us if we'd produce a little video for them. And I said, "Yeah, sure." And I took that concept and I thought, well, if I can do that here, I'm just going to reach out to a bunch of hotels around the world and see if I can get some clients. And I did. Some of the hotels said yes. Started me on my journey of not just doing brands that you're wearing and seeing, but places that you're going to.
Going, yes.
And then I met my partner now in the production world, Ben Alcott with Damn Good Productions out of Sydney, Australia. We met on one of the shoots. He just happened to be there, and we decided let's make a television show. And we actually started off, the show we started off making was Out of the Ordinary, which was a show about extraordinary experiences and travel.
Sure.
And we really noticed while we were doing this, into the first 3 or 4 episodes, that a lot of these companies were actually doing a lot, and very often a detriment to the bottom line. They didn't have to do it, and it didn't make them any money. It lost them money, but they were doing a lot to be eco-sensitive, to be socially responsible for the community we're in. And then sustainable. And it was just fascinating to see what they were doing. Sometimes in the background where you wouldn't even know was a guest staying there, and sometimes very upfront and telling people, hey, we're doing this for this purpose. And I just thought that would be a fascinating story to tell and a great angle to promote travel with that subset in mind.
Sure, absolutely. Well, that's, part of everything that we're talking about now is about, traveling in that luxury comfort way and experiencing things that maybe you've always dreamed of experiencing, but also protecting your carbon footprint, thinking about the sustainability of where you're going and how you're going to travel. And that's so important these days. So how do you think the luxury travel industry has reacted during these unprecedented times, and what do you think personally has been, I suppose, the silver lining positive side of the way that we've just paused?
I think the reaction overall has been very positive from the messaging that's coming from these luxury destinations and resorts. It seems to me that the first and foremost priority for them is letting people know that safety and health comes first. And very often they're talking about their staff and their employees and stuff like that. I'm not sure anybody knows where this is going to end up, and I'm not sure any of them can predict what it's going to look like for them after this is all over. I think eventually things will come back around. Who knows how long it'll take. But I've been really impressed. I have been impressed with the priority of, look, first things first, our staff and the people who make us do what we do every day. It's our utmost priority that they're safe and they're healthy. So I like that. I think that has been received very well. For me, there is a little bit of a silver lining in it all, because we had shot all 10 episodes of the season. So we'd already been around the world and did all of our shooting on the boots on the ground stuff before this thing hit. And what we're left to do at this point was going to post and do all the editing, post-production, and do all the editing. And so we're there now, and we've posted and we've produced several episodes, the first 3 that went up on Amazon Prime just a few weeks ago. And the silver lining is there are more people home now to watch that than there ever would have been, had this not happened. And on top of that, it's even been a few weeks into it before we actually released the episode. So everybody had watched their Tiger Kings and their, whatever crazy stuff was out there. And we're actually hungry for new content. And there's this new term that I heard the other day called armchair tourism, where people are actually enjoying being able to at least mentally get out of it and travel, through the magic of television. And so for us, a little bit of a silver lining there.
Yeah, absolutely. And do you think, could you tell us a bit about maybe a couple of the episodes of Leave No Trace and what people are going to expect to see whilst watching on Amazon Prime?
Yeah, so let's start with the first episode, for example, that you're going to see out there. We went to Peru. We went down to the Sacred Valley, and we covered several things, and then ended that episode actually in Machu Picchu. And we started off the episode. We introduced a company called Inca Terra, who are an accommodation company, a hotel company, and they've actually been doing ecotourism and sustainability and social responsibility since the 1970s. So before it was even a buzzword, these guys had the foresight to see that this is something that needs to be done. And again, a lot of these places are doing it not because it's helping them make money. In fact, almost costing them money for the most part, but they just feel the conscience to actually do it. So we've got somewhere like Inca Terra that we highlighted. Then we got slightly lost on the way up to the Sacred Valley, which you'll see some footage of. The car that we're in is not built for off-road, but we somehow managed to find ourselves on the side of a very steep mountain, on a very narrow road. So that was to see. We had the opportunity to stay in a place called the Sky Lodge, which is literally these plastic see-through pods that hang off the side of a cliff.
Oh no, thank you.
Yeah, so and the reaction has been two ways. People have either said, "Oh my God, I'd love to do that," or they've said exactly what the words you just used. No, thank you. But ultimately, as we're going through these episodes, we're highlighting the experience, but we're also really digging deep into how they're sustainable and stuff like that. And then we finished the episode actually up in Machu Picchu. Visually, it's stunning. I explained to people, this is seeing this on television is one thing, but you really want to come visit here. But at the same time, highlight the issues that we really want to bring forth in this TV show. Is that when we were there in Machu Picchu, it was a free for all. Like this is an archaeological ruin that unless it's looked after might not be there 100 years from now, because people are just walking all over it. There was no barriers. There was no people in place to say, "Hey, get off of that old building there that's been built centuries ago." People were just crawling all over it. And I heard a story when I was up there that in the 1980s, the King of Spain wanted to visit Machu Picchu, could only get up there in a helicopter. There used to be a huge monolith in the middle of this archaeological site. They cut the monolith down so that this helicopter could land, and the only spot that it was able to land. So things like that just drove me nuts. And I highlighted it in the show. And fortunately today, the Peruvian government are doing a lot of different things. They're limiting the amount of people that can go every day. And they're putting a lot of stipulations in place that will hopefully help mitigate the damage that the thousands of people that go there every day do. And it's a double-edged sword, because people want to see it, but they just have to figure out how to do that, but be respectful and leave no trace, right? So
right, exactly. Gosh, well, I'm definitely looking forward to catching up on Amazon Prime and taking that episode, because that's somewhere that is on my bucket list, and I've always wanted to go, and especially with the family once the kiddies are a bit older. But yeah, we'll definitely head there. But like you said, I think if we're made more aware of what's happening, then it makes us, tread carefully as such when we do visit these places.
Absolutely. And it's not always done on purpose. It's just sometimes you don't think about it. And if somebody would just highlight it to you, then you just have just think about it a little more. Yeah,
of course. So what have been some of the proudest moments since you started the show, you think, even up until now with Leave No Trace?
Yeah, the proudest moment for me was we highlighted an organization that will actually come up in 2 episodes, an organization called Seneva, who I ultimately think are the pinnacle of ecotourism and eco resorts. One of them, they have 3 resorts. They have the Maldives, they have Thailand, and I think they have a third one that's actually on a yacht. Suniva and Aqua, they call it.
Mm.
But they have a program that they are zero carbon footprint. In fact, they're negative carbon footprint, so they actually get to sell carbon credits. And they have this stove program in Myanmar where they are buying, or they are providing stoves to these small villages at a very, very reduced cost. And what these stoves are doing is they're burning more efficiently and with less smoke. More people die from constant smoke inhalation around the world than HIV and malaria combined. And when you go to these little villages and you see how they're cooking every day and how they're heating and the smoke that's coming out, these people are breathing this in all the time.
Yeah.
So they are providing stoves that burn with much less smoke, the way they're designed, and they burn much more efficiently. So there's less amount of wood used, and these people are deforesting the woods and the forest around them.
Yeah.
Right. So they're reducing that too, and we went and highlighted that, and it just to be in those little villages and see that there was a difference being made. Was one of my proudest moments anyway, especially, anytime you're running around a bunch of little kids like that, and they're just so cute and so happy, and even although they don't
like
have
you
much,
said, just that difference that you're making is saving people's lives essentially.
Exactly. And I highlight, it was proud for me to highlight it. We're not, Suniva is the ones doing all the work. I can't take credit for that, but being able to go highlight it and make it visible to everybody else is where I take pride.
Oh, well done. No, that's really great to hear. And finally, what changes do you predict happening now since the pandemic in the luxury eco travel world? What do you see happening or predicting to happen?
Well, I think in the travel world in general, first of all, just getting to your destinations, the journey is going to be different. Airports, for example, after 9/11, there was a huge change, and going to the airport 20 minutes before your flight suddenly became going to the airport 2 and 3 hours before your flight. And I think with this now, I think that becomes even bigger or even longer. I think you're going to go to the airport 4 hours before an international flight. There's going to be a lot of protocols in place. There'll be temperature taking. There'll be wiping down of everything.
Yeah.
There'll be all these things that you have to go through, all these processes from the actual travel itself. From a luxury experience, and specifically when it comes to accommodation, I think all those things will be in place, but I don't think it'll make a huge difference to the organizations themselves, because the thing about luxury travel and the thing about luxury experiences is it's down to detail. And everything that somebody does at a luxury hotel or a luxury resort, and the enjoyable experience there is actually the result of devils in the details, and everything is done to the minuscule. And I don't think that's not going to change as far as the service industry is concerned, or the luxury service industry is concerned. And I think they're set up for it because they're used to it. They're used to wiping down every little smudge that's on a brass banister, for example. You know what I'm saying? So visually, everything always looked perfect and great anyway. And they would go to great extremes and great lengths to make sure that, again, the minuscule things that they were doing that you don't notice necessarily, but it adds to the overall experience. So, I think they'll be able to handle it. The luxury resorts will handle it better than a lot of other places that are not used to providing that kind of in-depth attention to detail.
Yeah, sure, absolutely. Well, Richard, thank you so much for joining us on Luxury Insider. And so if everybody is wanting to catch up on your episodes and the series of Leave No Trace, which is on Amazon Prime now, so make sure you all jump on board online. They obviously can access it through all types of portals. And like you said, the couch tourism sector or armchair tourism sector, as you said, is doing quite well at the moment. So we've got a few episodes to catch up on, but I personally really look forward to doing that, Richard, and we really thank you for joining us today. So
I appreciate it. Thank you so much for the opportunity.
No problem. Well, take care and stay safe, and we look forward to speaking with you soon.
You too.